these great avatars, Narasimha, Varaha, Vamana, Ram, they all manifest through Kshirodakshaya Vishnu. And the cause of all causes of all of these is Balaram. He's the origin of all incarnations, the origin of all Purusha avatars, but his origin is Krishna. And Balaram, he's the original guru because the master of everything that exists, but eternally his life is to serve Krishna. As Narayan, when the Lord appears as Narayan, Balaram appears as Ananta Shesha, to be his bed, his umbrella. Balaram expands in the spiritual world to be the spiritual world. He becomes the Lord's shoes, his jewelry, his chair, his bed. In every possible way, he's simply serving the Lord, giving pleasure to the Lord. And in reciprocation, the Lord is always giving pleasure to Balaram. Similarly, the Hladini Shakti, Sri Radha, who's none different than Krishna. For all of eternity, she's the servant of Krishna, giving pleasure to Krishna. And Krishna, for all eternity, feels himself indebted as the servant of Radha, giving pleasure to Radha. So this is the sum and substance of the highest revelations of yoga, of spirituality, is loving relationship. Achintya Beda Beda Tattva. Balaram is one with Krishna. They are the self-same person. But eternally they're different also. And that difference is for one reason only, to facilitate loving reciprocation. And this is Bhakti Yoga, the yoga that reconnects us to that love. All the gopis are simply assisting Sri Radha, and all the gopis are simply assisting Balaram in loving Krishna. One time Srila Prabhupada was sitting and some of his leading devotees were discussing expanding this movement in different properties that they were acquiring and different problems how to resolve and distributing so many millions of books. And Prabhupada was in a meditative mood. They asked Srila Prabhupada, one devotee, God knows why, but this devotee asked Prabhupada, what are you thinking? Srila Prabhupada said, I'm just thinking, what did Yashodamai put in Krishna's lunchbox today? The goal of everything is that simplicity. To enter into the Leela of the Lord. So yes, Krishna and Balaram are one. Radha Krishna are one. But this separate identity that they simultaneously have is simply for the purpose of loving exchange. Nityo nityanam chaitanas chaitananam. Mamaivam so jiva loke, jiva bhuta sanatana. We are all expansions of Krishna. Each and every one of us. Wherever there's life, There's a spirit soul, and that soul is a part of Krishna. An eternal soul. And why did Krishna expand himself into all of us? For eternal loving reciprocation. Ananda. Krishna wants each and every one of us to taste the sweetest, highest happiness. And Krishna's feeling the sweetest, highest happiness in giving that happiness to us. And we are feeling that happiness and giving that happiness to Krishna. And that is the supreme reality. Above liberation. Above birth and death forever. And Balaram, he's the example of the Supreme Personality of Servitor Godhead. In every way serving. In every relationship Krishna has, Balaram is there in the lead. Shantaras, he expands himself as the clothes, the shoes, and the abode of the Lord. Dasyaras, he's engaged in serving the Lord in every possible way. Sakyaras, he's Krishna's, the leader of all the cowherd boys. Vatsalyaras, he's Krishna's older brother, so he has parental affection for Krishna. And in Madhuryaras, he expands as Ananga Manjari, who is Sri Radha's younger sister. To be there, to assist Sri Radharani and Krishna in their most confidential pastimes. And in this material world, he expands himself to be the empowering principle within the spiritual master, the Guru, who's teaching us how to engage in Krishna's service, how to love Krishna and be happy. That is Balaram. In Ram Lila, Balaram appeared as Lakshman, younger brother of Lord Sri Ram. He's all powerful as a servant. When Ram was exiled to the forest, Lakshman, who was the constant associate of Sri Ramchandra, he insisted, I will go with you. Ram tried to convince Sita not to come. But Sita was so insistent. I cannot be separated from you, I must come with you. And Ram surrendered to the will of Sita. When Lakshman said, I will come, Ram didn't even bother trying to convince him otherwise. He said, yes, Lakshman, come. From their birth, Lakshman was always the servant of Ram. And although Lakshman is the source of Mahavishnu and all other avatars, he would walk in front of Sita and Ram, sometimes behind them, protecting them. When they'd come to a little place, whether it be Chitrakoot or Panchavati, Nasik, Lakshman would build a little house for them. Natural, simple. With his own hands he would build. When Ram and Sita were resting at night, Lakshman didn't sleep. He remained awake, guarding. When they were at the kingdom of Guha, Lakshman, along with Guha, made a nice little bed for Ram. And when Sita and Ram were resting, Lakshman stood up all night guarding. During the great fight of Sri Lanka, Lakshman was struck by a mystical powered javelin in his chest. He fell down, and there was no symptom of consciousness in his body. Lord Sri Ramchandra, seeing his brother in this state, he stopped fighting himself. He fell on his knees, weeping in concern for his brother Lakshman. And that was the great opportunity for Hanuman. The doctor of the Vanaras, he said, there is an herb in the Gandhamadana mountain, long way from here. Bring that herb, Hanumanji. Hanuman saw Lakshman was in danger. And Ram's love for Lakshman. Rama's crying. It's a love. And it was that scenario that Hanumanji jumped to the Himalayas. He couldn't find the herb, so he picked up the mountain. Nothing could stop him. And we have all seen that famous of all paintings of Hanuman. The most popular is carrying the mountain. And what is the Leela of carrying the mountain? He's carrying that mountain because Lakshman, Balaram, appears to be in a helpless state, and Ram. What greater way of pleasing Ram than at this time of his need to assist him? Hanuman was actually doing it for Lakshman, knowing that's Ram's heart and soul. And when the fragrance of the herb entered into Lakshman, he immediately came back to consciousness. That was pinnacle of Ram's happiness with Hanuman. Ram's love for Sita. When Sita was in the Ashokvan of Ravana in Sri Lanka, it was Hanuman that jumped over to console her and then come back to Ram to give the message. Hanuman is the emblem of bhakti. He's the personification of devotion. And we find these two particular pastimes are prominent. And both of them are times when Ram was feeling deep pain of separation due to the plight of his beloved. One is Sita, the other is Lakshman, and Hanuman was right there to give pleasure to the Lord's devotees. In Gokul, Krishna and Balaram were two little infant babies. After some time, they learned to crawl. Krishna tells in Gita, I'm the ability in men. But to give pleasure to the residents of Vrindavan and through the Srimad Bhagavatam to give pleasure to all of us. They are crawling. So beautiful. Sukadeva Goswami says the way they would crawl, they looked like two little snakes crawling around. And they especially went to those places where the cows and the bulls and the oxen would leave their urine and dung. They were especially fond of cow dung and cow urine. And they'd crawl right through it. Their parents and the other elder gopis, they would see Krishna Balaram just dragging their little baby bodies through the cow dung and cow urine, and they would smile. Sometimes Krishna Balaram would be looking for their mothers crawling. They'd hear the tinkling of ankle bells. They'd crawl, 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 thinking, this is my mother. But it wasn't their mother, it was another gopi. They'd see little Krishna and Balaram with the tinkling of their ankle bells, and they'd say, oh, Krishna Balaram, and Krishna Balaram would notice, this is not Rohini, this is not Yashoda, and they'd get all very afraid and crawl away looking for their mother. Rohini would lift up Balaram, Yashoda Mai would lift up Krishna and put them in their laps. They were covered with cow dung and cow urine. As they were about to put their milk in Krishna and Balaram's mouth, sometimes they would notice in their mouth little teeth started growing. And Rohini and Yashoda would count the teeth and compare. I guess that's what mothers do. Out of love. Sometimes when they're crawling around, Krishna and Balaram would see a little calf grab their tail. The little calf, feeling their tail pulled, would become afraid and jump up and start running. They were dragging Krishna again through dung and urine, through the dust of Vrindavan. And because the calf was so scared, running here and there, and Krishna Balaram, they were scared to let go. Seeing this, Rohini Devi, Yashoda would smile. Their children appeared so helpless, just holding on. Rohini would pick up Balaram, Yashoda Mai would pick up Krishna and embrace them and make them feel protected and happy in their mother's love. After some time, Krishna and Balaram, Shukadev Goswami says, without difficulty, they would learn how to walk. Little by little. And as soon as the Srimad Bhagavatam talks about walking, immediately comes the pastimes of Krishna and Balaram stealing the butter from the gopis' homes. And then we find this wonderful story where Krishna eats dirt at Brahmandagat. And Yashoda Maya is asking Krishna, why have you eaten dirt? This is not good. How could you eat dirt? I'm giving you so many sweets. I'm giving you my milk. Why you were eating dirt? How will you remain healthy if you're eating dirt? Krishna says, I didn't eat dirt. And Yashoda Maya said, but you did eat dirt because Balaram is telling me that you ate dirt. And Balaram's your best friend. He steals butter with you. He does everything with you. He would never lie against you. Balaram is saying that you ate dirt. And the reality is Balaram was claiming Krishna ate dirt. Why? Because Krishna actually did eat dirt. So here we find we've just been narrating little drops from the ocean of the stories of Balaram's complete surrender and submissive to assisting Krishna and serving Krishna as Lakshman, as Sheshanaga, holding up all the universes, as Ananta, the ultimate servant of the Supreme Lord. But here, he's telling Yashoda and getting Krishna in trouble. This is Braj Bhumi. Balaram's eternal existence is simply facilitating loving pastimes between Krishna and his devotees. So Krishna had to open his mouth. After all, Balaram said he ate dirt. And that is the time when he showed the entire universe within the little mouth. Balaram appears as Nityananda Prabhu in the age of Kali. There's a beautiful story of how after Nityananda Prabhu and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu met for the first time at the house of Nanda Acharya, Sachimata told Nimai that she had a dream. In this dream, she saw Nityananda Prabhu and Lord Chaitanya go on the altar of Krishna and Balaram and started taking all the sweets that were being offered to Krishna and Balaram. Krishna and Balaram were very angry. Balaram told Nityananda Prabhu, "You cannot do this. I'm the brother of Krishna. I'm Balaram. You cannot, who are you to steal his sweets? I will punish you." And Nityananda told Balaram, they were in the form of little boys. He said, "I am not afraid of your Krishna. I am the servant of Vishwambar, Lord Chaitanya. Your days of stealing butter are over." Lord Chaitanya, he was so happy to hear this. They were fighting, and then finally at the end, Nityananda was calling, "Sachi, Sachi, give me food, give me food." So Lord Chaitanya said, we should invite Nityananda Prabhu for prasad today. And Lord Chaitanya went to Nityananda Prabhu. Sachimata prepared wonderful lunch prasad. He said, "Nitai, you're being invited today by Sachi Devi to my house, but you should behave properly." Nityananda Prabhu said to Sachinandan, Sri Chaitanya, that I always behave properly. You are the one who don't behave properly. That's why you are saying I don't behave properly. They came with some of their associates and they sat down, and Sachimata came to give them prasad. And when she came back for seconds, she saw Lord Nityananda and Lord Chaitanya were sitting there as two little tiny boys, one with a white complexion and one with a dark complexion. Krishna Balaram as little children without clothes on. And she fell unconscious. That is Yashoda Mai's Leela, serving Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda as Sachi Devi. On Balaram's 5th birthday, some wonderful things took place. But the Abhishek starts in 15 minutes. Huh? 11:30. on the 5th birthday of Sri Balaramji, Nanda, Yashoda, Rohini Devi, they kept Balaram from going into the pastures with Krishna. At this time, Krishna and Balaram were in charge of taking care of the calves. Just previous to this day, one day Krishna and Balaram with all the gopas were taking care of the little calves. So many calves. And one of Kamsa's associates, a demon, for the purpose of killing Krishna and Balaram, he took the form of a calf. Very sweet-looking, innocent calf with nice lotus-like eyes. But Krishna knows everything. So as they're making the calves very happy, taking them to nice pastures to eat soft, nutritious, delicious grasses, and bringing them to the kunds and the nectarine lakes to drink water, as the gopas would play so many wonderful games. Krishna told Balaram, that calf is a demon who's come to kill us all. Balaram acknowledged. Krishna and Balaram very, very nicely walked just behind the calf, whose name was Vatsasura. And Lord Krishna suddenly grabbed the rear legs of the calf and whirled him around until the demon was dead. But Krishna likes to do many things with even one action. Because there was this tree called the kapita tree. And these fruits are very delicious. So Krishna wanted to get those fruits for his friends. So he threw the calf on the top of the kapita tree, and then all the kapita fruits fell down. So on Balaram's birthday, Rohini Devi kept him back to have abhishekam for their little son, and also to engage him in serving the Brahmins, to give gifts and charity. We find in the scriptures this is the way birthdays were celebrated. Because there's no greater gift than the blessings of great souls. So the little children, besides the yagyas that the great souls will perform for them, they would have the little children giving in charity. And then little children, and this is true for all of us, when the children learn that the greatest gift is the opportunity to serve great souls, then we're giving the child something wonderful. If we just give material toys and whatever else, clothes and gifts, that's fine. It's natural. But it doesn't really give a direction in life. But when we give them the value that the greatest gift we're giving is where you give gifts to others, where you serve others, where you're being blessed by others because you're of your serving. That's the gift that Rohini would give Balaram, and Yashoda and Nanda would give Krishna. So Balaram was staying back to get all these yagyas and to give all these gifts to great souls. And meanwhile, when Balaram wasn't there, it was a special opportunity for Krishna to perform leelas. Because Balaram was his protector, his older brother. So on that day of Balaram Jayanti, today, we're celebrating these pastimes today. Aghasura came to Vrindavan. Balaram wasn't there. He took the form of a gigantic serpent. I'm going to summarize because of time. Aghasura opened his mouth. His lower lip was on the ground, his upper lip was in the clouds. Can you imagine a snake like that? We see little tiny snakes and we run away. Aghasura was such a snake. And the cowherd boys were so confident of Krishna's protection. When they saw Aghasura, they were playful. What is this? It looks like, the tongue looks like a superhighway. His mouth is massive. His teeth look like snow-capped mountain peaks. And because Aghasura was always eating different bodies, the rotting of the dead flesh and blood that was in his belly made his breath horrible. The cowherd boys were just noticing, it must be all the dead corpses that's making this smell. And some were saying, this is a demon. And others were thinking, this is some wonderful playground that Krishna has arranged for us. Then the boy said, let's go inside. And other boys said, no, I'm not going in there. And then the cowherd boys would tell those boys, if you don't come, then we're not going to play with you anymore. Why are you afraid? Krishna will save us. After all, Bakasura, he was big as a gigantic mountain, and he swallowed Krishna, and he tried to kill us, and Krishna just bifurcated him. We have nothing to fear. So they were dancing and smiling right into the mouth of Agha. Krishna was watching. They're entering to the mouth of this demoniac snake. And after they were all inside the mouth, Krishna entered the mouth. Aghasura closed the mouth with the intention of completely disintegrating the bodies of Krishna and the cowherd boys and the calves. And being in that completely dark place with no air, all the calves and all the children, they lost their consciousness. But Krishna glanced upon them. And because nobody was looking, Yashoda Mai wasn't there, Nanda Maharaj wasn't there, the boys and the calves were all unconscious. Krishna did something, the only time he did this in his Braj Leela. He assumed an incredible form to kill a demon. Putana, he was just a little baby. He just sucked a little harder. Tranabharta, he remained the same little baby size, hardly a year old. He just became heavy. Vatsasura, just Bakasura. Even Kaliya, Krishna just danced on his hoods. But Aghasura, Krishna expanded his body bigger, and so big that no air could circulate in Agha's body, and he suffocated. At the moment of his death, his soul burst out from the top of his head into the sky, and his mouth opened. Krishna glanced upon all his friends and the calves, and they all came alive, and they were feeling well rested. They didn't know what happened exactly, but they knew that they were swallowed by this serpent, and somehow Krishna saved them, and they all came dancing out of the mouth of Aghasura, and Krishna let them all go first, and as soon as he came out, the spirit of Aghasura in the form of a light entered into Krishna's body. Aghasura was the brother of Bakasura and Putana. He was really envious and really angry at Krishna. He decided, I must kill him, and if I kill Krishna, I kill all the calves and all the cowherd boys, then all the gopas and all the gopis and all the cows and all the bulls, they will definitely die because they cannot live without their children. He came to Vrindavan with the sole purpose of exterminating the whole Brijabasi race. Such cruelty, such envy, such hatred. But yet, the cowherd boys were so happy, dancing in his mouth. And somehow or other, at the time of his death, as Krishna was suffocating him, Aghasura, through the association of Krishna and all the gopas, was feeling affection for them. And because of that little affection that awoke in the last moment, Aghasura did not get impersonal liberation the way most demons do. He got elevation to the spiritual world to enter into Krishna's eternal pastimes. As did his sister Putana. So merciful is Lord Krishna. But after this, they were all very hungry. I guess when you get eaten, you get hungry. So Krishna said, let us take prasad on the bank of Yamuna today. They were especially excited with their little calves. They sat on the bank of the Yamuna, and they all had their little packets, Prabhupada called them tiffins, that their mothers would prepare for them. And oh, how they enjoyed taking prasad. How they enjoyed everything. Simplest ways of sharing joy with each other. Whatever the gopas did and whatever Krishna did was always to increase the pleasure of each other. So each one was making a special plate. Some were putting their prasad on leaves, some on flowers, some on rocks. They were all decorated in special ways by their mothers, and then they would decorate themselves in the forest. And Krishna was in the middle like the whorl of a lotus, and the gopas were like the petals around the whorl. And they'd all show each other the different kinds of prasad they had. Yashoda Mai would pack so many nice things for Krishna, and all the gopis would pack for their children. And they would be showing each other, and they would taste, and one cowherd boy would take a bite out of something, and it was so good. He said, Krishna, please try this. Krishna blissfully would take it right from the mouth of his friend and eat it, and be so happy. And they would just be passing around the prasad from one mouth of one cowherd boy to another, and they were all looking at Krishna. And even though the boys were in full circle around Krishna, and Krishna didn't manifest 4 heads or 8 heads or 16 heads, he was just a little gopa, hardly 5 years old at the time, but yet every gopa was thinking, Krishna's only looking at me, simultaneously. Krishna's Rasa Vihari. He's so expert at giving pleasure to his devotees and tasting the sweetness of loving exchanges. Meanwhile, Lord Brahma and Balaram Jayanti, he heard about Krishna killing Aghasura. And all the demigods were very much afraid of Aghasura. And the way Krishna liberated him, the demigods were having big celebrations, so Brahma wanted to see, what is it? And he came down, and Brahma saw Krishna as a little gopa, playing with his friends, eating prasad, putting prasad from mouth to mouth, tasting it, joking. Krishna would love to make his friends laugh, and his friends would love to make Krishna laugh. So many stories. As they're sitting eating prasad, somebody says to Krishna, I have something that's really, Krishna says to a cowherd boy actually, I have something that tastes really, really nice. Close your eyes, I'll put it in your mouth. The cowherd boy closes his eyes, opens his mouth, and Krishna puts a flower in his mouth. And then the boy gets a really like a bitter flavor, and he looks very much unhappy the way he's. And Krishna and all the cowherd boys start laughing and laughing and laughing. When we talk about it, it doesn't sound so happy. But these simplest exchanges were the highest ecstasies for Krishna and his friends. So Brahma sees Krishna. He just killed Aghasura. This mighty, powerful demon who was, 8 miles long? And he's just like a little boy, 5-year-old boy playing. So Brahma wanted to test, who is this cowherd boy? He was bewildered. And by his own supernatural mystical powers, he allured the calves by fine, tasty grasses deeper and deeper into the forest. When the gopas, during their prasad, they noticed that the calves were not there. They became very much concerned, and Krishna said, you continue eating prasad, I will go and find the calves. He wandered along the riverbank through the forest, into mountains and valleys. He couldn't find the calves anywhere. When he returned, all the boys were gone. Krishna knew Brahma had stolen them. Actually, Brahma thought he stole them. He actually stole illusory manifestations of them. He was really bewildered. He took these calves and cowherd boys and put them in a cave and put them in a mystic sleep. For one moment of his time, which was exactly 1 year by our time. During that year, one day, Krishna and Balaram were out with the cows and the calves. And Balaram, he saw the cows with the elder cowherd men on top of Govardhan Hill. And when the cows saw their calves, they came running down. And the cowherd men came running after them. And the cows were licking their little calves with tears flowing from their eyes. And the cowherd men were very disturbed. But when they saw their little children, in such ecstasy of parental affection, they were embracing their children. And Balaram was watching this. And he understood that this type of love can only be for Krishna. He understood, Balaram, what really happened. On Balaram Jayanti, when Balaram was not there, Krishna expanded himself to be an exact form of each calf and each gopa. And on Balaram Jayanti, when Krishna and all the cowherd boys came back to Gokul, nobody suspected anything. The only difference was that the gopis, the gopas, and the cows, and the bulls never, ever, ever had so much love for their children. Krishna became all their children to fulfill their desire. Because in the spiritual world there's no envy. But still, each motherly cow, each motherly gopi, each fatherly gopa, were all saying they loved Krishna more than their own children. And they loved their children more than anybody could imagine a parent's love for children. But still they loved Krishna more. And they were thinking, how fortunate are Nanda and Yashoda. They have Krishna as their own child, serving him day and night. There was no jealousy, rather. They were thinking, because they are so fortunate, let us serve Nanda and Yashoda. But Krishna, understanding their hearts, gave all the cows and all the elder gopis and gopas the opportunity to fully share intimate exchanges directly as Krishna's mother and father for 1 full year. They were experiencing the same pleasure as Yashoda and Nanda. So Balaram could understand exactly what happened. And Krishna confirmed it. Balaram understood Krishna. For this, it's almost been a full year. And every day since my birthday, I'm going out with all the calves and all the cowherd boys. And even I didn't know that they're all you. Krishna said, yes. It's me. Balaram was struck with wonder. And a few days later, again it was his birthday. 6th birthday. And he stayed back. And Brahma came back to see what happened. And he saw all the cowherd boys, all the calves, they're all playing with Krishna. He was thinking, how is it possible? They're in the cave sleeping, but at the same time I see them here. So he went back to the cave. They were still sleeping. And he was going back and forth. He became completely bewildered. Is it that every time I go back to the cave, Krishna takes them and brings them here, and then whenever I go here, they brings them there. How is this possible? Brahma has 4 heads. He's looking in all 4 directions. Brahma Vimohan, he's completely bewildered. He doesn't understand what is happening. How is it that everything's the same after what I did? Then Krishna wanted to increase Brahma's bewilderment. Suddenly, right before Lord Brahma's eyes, every calf and every little boy takes the form of Vishnu, with 4 arms holding the symbols of Lord Vishnu. Then Brahma can't even blink his eyes anymore. He completely is blanked out. It's completely, totally beyond his comprehension. What is happening? Then suddenly everything disappears and all that's left is Gopal, Krishna. Exactly as he was 1 year before, all alone with a little piece of yogurt and fruit salad in his hand, innocently looking for his calves. Brahma realizes he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He comes down on his swan carrier and puts his head on the feet of Lord Gopal. At that moment, he sees Vrindavan. The Brahma Samhita was written according to the vision he received. It wasn't until his ego was completely transcended and he surrendered his heart fully that he could actually see Vrindavan as it is. He saw every grain of dust to be Chintamani, more precious than the jewels of Vaikuntha. All the trees to be desired trees, Kalpabriksha. He saw each cow to be Surabhi, Kamadhenu. He saw the water as nectar. The sweetness of Krishna's flute everywhere. Brahma surrendered with tears pouring from all of his eyes. And he offered beautiful prayers of humility, seeking shelter of Krishna's grace. And Krishna didn't say a word. According to the acharyas, Krishna was in the role of a little cowherd boy, thinking, who is this Brahma? He's such a big person. Why is he bowing to me? I'm just a little cowherd boy looking for my calves. So after Brahma surrenders, he gets on his swan carrier and returns to his abode. And at that time, all of Krishna's friends and all the little calves, they manifested themselves again exactly where they were when Krishna was looking for them. Krishna found all the calves in the forest and brought them all to the riverbank. And when all the calves came back to the riverbank, all the boys, they started laughing and calling out, Krishna, you have returned so soon. You just left hardly a moment ago to find the calves. How did you find them all so soon? We haven't been eating anything because we were waiting for you to return, so now let us have prasad together. And Krishna laughed and they enjoyed prasad. And when they returned to Vrindavan, they were singing beautiful poetic songs of how today Krishna killed the demon Aghasura. Interesting, on the way back from the cowherd pasture, they saw the body of Akasura all dried up. But it didn't really cross their mind what happened. But it was 1 year later. And Parikshit Maharaj asked Sukadeva Goswami, how is this possible? After 1 year, they were telling the Brajavasis about the killing of Akasura. And none of the Brajavasis even knew that for that 1 year, Krishna took the form of their son. And just after that, Krishna and Balaram entered into their 6th year. That's the Poganda Lila. The Gopas, headed by Upananda, Nanda Maharaj, Sunanda, Abhinanda, Nandan, they decided to give Krishna and Balaram the role of taking care of the cows, the full-grown cows. And it was on the 8th day of the waxing moon of the month of Kartik, Gopastami, that Krishna and Balaram took charge of the cows. And they would go into the pasture, and every type of game they would play. They would decorate themselves with leaves and the minerals of Vrindavan, flowers, peacock feathers. They would take fruit, the cowherd boys, and throw the fruit in the air, and then they'd take another piece of fruit and try to hit that other fruit in the air. And if they did it, everyone would cheer and celebrate. They would play hide and seek. They would make little bridges to cross the rivers. They would make little boats to cross the Yamuna. Krishna would imitate the dancing of peacocks, the singing of the cuckoos. One day Krishna told Balaram that all these trees are bowing down to you, and the bees are actually great sages. And they're tasting the nectar of the sweetness of your glories by following behind you and buzzing the Vedic hymns. And the peacocks are dancing for you, and the birds are singing for you. They are all celebrating you, Balaram. And as they would play, Balaram would get tired, and he'd lay his head on another cowherd boy's lap like a pillow. Krishna would personally massage Balaram's feet, fan him with leaves from the forest, bring him water. At other times, Krishna would get tired, and the Gopas would do the same for him. This way they would spend their days playing and herding the cows in the forests of Vrindavan. And the first demon that's recorded in Srimad Bhagavatam that was liberated after they took charge of the cows, I'll tell the story. One day as they're playing Sridama, Subala, Stoka Krishna, they approach Krishna and Balaram and say, "Oh Balaramji, you are so strong. And Krishna, you're so wonderful." Close by there is a forest named Talavan. There's very, very tall trees. And from these trees there are fruits that are so sweet we can smell the aroma of them right now, but nobody is allowed to eat them. because some associate of Kamsa named Dhenuka, powerful demon, has assumed the form of an ass. And his friends, they have also assumed gigantic ass forms. They are so cruel that even if any human being comes there, they will eat them alive. Therefore, all these fruits are falling to the ground and nobody can touch them. But we're very enthusiastic to eat them. So Krishna Balaram, please, liberate us from our hunger and take us to the forest of Talavan. And actually the cowherd boys did not want the fruits for themselves. They wanted to give pleasure to Krishna. Because they knew Krishna Balaram, every day they would like to kill different demons and liberate them. So for Krishna Balaram's pleasure, they were inviting them. But if they said, Krishna Balaram, we know that you like to kill demons, so go, Krishna and Balaram wouldn't find so much pleasure doing. But they're saying, we are very hungry, we want to eat those fruits so bad. They knew that then Krishna and Balaram would be very excited to do this. So they entered the Talavan forest. And Sri Balaramji, he came to a tree and shook it. Tal fruits tumbled down to the ground, making a loud noise. Dhenukasura had such a consciousness that this forest belongs to me, and these fruits are for me to enjoy. How dare anyone intrude on my property? Furious, he came charging toward Balaram. And Balaram is standing there just shaking trees, all the fruits. If he did it in secret, it wouldn't be such an insult. But doing it publicly and making so much noise, Dhenukasura was so angry. His ego was on fire. How dare you come right out in the open in my forest and do like this? Dhenuka was like a mountain in size. He turned his rear side to Balaram and with all of his strength kicked Balaram in the chest with his hind legs again and again and again. Balaram just stood there. Dhenuka was so angry. After kicking him, he was roaring this horrible sound. It was terrifying. Roaring again and again and again. But it was like thunder. Obsessed with anger, ran in circle after circle after circle, then returned to Balaram, faced his rear end at him, and pounded his legs on Balaram's chest. Balaram stood there patiently. Then with one hand he grabbed the hind legs of Dhenukasura, lifted him over his head, whirled him in circles until Dhenukasura was so dizzy that he died. Then Balaram located the tallest of all the tall trees in Talavan. This is the way he honored Dhenukasura. He threw his dead corpse on the top of the highest of all the trees. And the tree started rocking back and forth, and the fruits were falling down, and then the tree hit another tree, and then the tree started moving back and forth, and all the trees, and they started breaking. And the friends of Dhenukasura were so upset. They couldn't tolerate just killed our leader. All of them charged at Krishna and Balaram. And Krishna, with one hand, one after another, were whirling them around, and right next to him was Balaram doing the same thing. And all the trees were covered with these gigantic forms of dead asses. They were all liberated. Looked like a beautiful scene, Sukadeva Goswami said. It was like big dark clouds. And because there was so much blood, some of them looked like red clouds at the time of the sunset. And the Brijabasis came to eat the fruits. But the cowherd boys didn't eat them because of all the blood and everything around. And this Dhenukasura consciousness, this mentality of I and mine, by the grace of Balaram, through the instructions and the mercy of the spiritual master, can liberate us from that. And just after Dhenukasura, they all came back to Vrindavan, and Krishna was playing his flute, and Balaram was playing his flute, and all the gopas were chanting the glories of Krishna killing, and Krishna and Balaram killing Dhenukasura and his friends, and they were singing beautiful songs and praise. And all the Brijabasis they welcomed Krishna and Balaram back to their home, to Nanda's home. The gopis gazed at Krishna with eyes like bumblebees toward the nectar of Krishna. After a long day of separation. And just after they came back home, the next story told in Srimad Bhagavatam is when Balaram did not go out to be with Krishna and the cowherd boys. And that was the day that they all drank water from this little lake and died. And then Krishna glanced at them and brought them back to life. Krishna climbed up on a kadamba tree and jumped into the water of this lake near the Yamuna. Kali emerged with his many heads and wrapped up Krishna in coils. And so many inauspicious things were happening all around that Nanda and Yashoda and Balaram and everybody came running to the lake of the Yamuna, where they saw Krishna in Kaliya's grips. And Nanda and Yashoda and all the gopas and gopis, they were besides himself with grief. They tried to enter into the waters of the Yamuna, which was then the Yamuna lake, which was highly poisoned. But Balaram stopped them. Some he stopped with his words, others he stopped by holding them back. This massive, enormous serpent wrapped around little Krishna's body. Balaram was thinking, in my form of Ananta Shesha, Krishna never plays with me like this. Why is Krishna playing with this insignificant little water snake named Kaliya? My brother has nothing, he is in no danger. And he was smiling and happy, Balaram, while all the other Brijabasis were on the verge of death, seeing Krishna in that state. Then Krishna danced on the hoods of Kaliya. And through the prayers of Kaliya's wives, the Nagapatnis, ultimately he He surrendered to Krishna. Just after this pastime, Krishna and Balaram go to the forest with their friends to herd the cows, playing so many wonderful games together. And one particular cowherd boy